If the patient has not consented to the HIE, this message may appear. If you do receive this notice but have received consent from the patient, you may select the link to manage consent preferences. Another way to enter consent is through the Consent tab. In this training, we will walk through entering consent using the Consent tab. To begin. Once signed into the HIE Web Access, select the Optum HIE 2.0 tile. Click the Consent tab. There are two ways to search for a patient. You can search for a patient using their medical record number, MRN, or you can search by patient name. When searching by MRN, you will need to select a hospital, clinic, or physician practice from the drop-down menu. For this demonstration, we will search by patient name. When searching by patient name, your search should be based on the legal name on file for the patient. Both the last and first name are required for this search. However, if you are unsure of how to spell the patient's name or are unsure of their legal name, you may do a wildcard search. If using a wildcard search, an asterisk may be used in place of letters. For example, a search for patient Bob Jones might look like *OB Jones. Search results for this might return Bob Jones, Robert Jones, or Roberta Jones. Additional information may be provided to obtain more accurate search results. When entering a patient's birth date, use the correct format. For example, a birth date of February 11, 1980 would be entered as 02/11/1980. Select Search once identifying information is entered. Once the patient has been located, click on the patient's last name to be directed to their consent preference on file. If you suspect a duplicate patient record within the HIE, be sure to contact HIE support. If consent has already been entered, further action is not required. If a consent preference has not been set, or if it needs to be updated, begin by clicking Add Consent Preference. Select the PHI, Protected Health Information Access, from the drop-down menu. This is the consent preference indicated by the patient. This choice should reflect the consent preference given on the consent form. It is very important to select all organizations. Healthy Nevada consent applies to all participating organizations. Enter the date the patient signed the HIE consent form. Next, indicate the location at which the patient gave consent. This will likely be your organization. Please notice that the drop-down menu is not in alphabetical order. Type in the first 3 letters of your organization to quickly make your selection. As of now, consent forms do not have an expiration date. Please leave these 2 fields blank. Check the box to indicate that authorization to select or update the patient's consent preference has been received. To modify the patient's consent preferences, select Save. Consent to this patient's record has now been granted. Treating providers have access anytime needed for medical treatment. It is important that your organization keeps the consent form with the patient's records. Consent forms may be stored electronically in your EHR or as a hard copy. It is up to your office to decide how consent forms will be stored. The HIE does not need the signed consent forms to be returned. However, in the event of an audit, the consent form needs to be on file. To enter additional consent preferences, select Return to List. Select Clear to begin the process again.